I want to say my name is Daphne Valcin once again, and I want to say thank you to the city of Deerfield Beach for having me be your keynote speaker today. So in 2002, I was getting ready to graduate high school. And the people around me were saying, well, what are you looking forward to as you're looking to go to college? And I said, there are two things that stand out to me. One is I want to make sure that by the time I graduate, I have a positive reputation in every kind of way, right? Okay? And then the second thing was I want to make sure that I go to University of Florida and I leave a legacy. And that's really what I said. And that's really what I did. So I went to the University of Florida. I was involved in 30 to 40 organizations while I was there. I connected people at the University of Florida to young people who were underprivileged in the Gainesville community. And when I graduated, I spoke at my college graduation. I left a legacy. And that's a theme that I want to talk about in today's keynote speech. It is our roadmap to an infinite legacy, a legacy that goes on and on and on, okay? And so the acronym that I'm going to speak about is MAP. M stands for motivation. Everybody say motivation. Motivation. Awesome. A stands for action. Everybody say action. And the P stands for perseverance. Everybody say perseverance. Perseverance. Awesome. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is motivation. So I don't know if you noticed, but I am pretty short, okay? I don't know if you noticed. I'm 5'2", but even at my height, I've actually worked around the country with young people from neighborhoods that people would label very dangerous. So West Philadelphia, Camden, New Jersey, Baltimore, Maryland, the Bronx and Brooklyn, New York, all of these different places and more. And when I was in Baltimore, I was a new teacher and I was walking through school and the principal saw me, kind of looked me up and down and said, are you gonna be okay in there with those kids? And I was okay, I was. The students told me, who I worked with, that I've pushed them to higher heights, to places they didn't even know that they could go. The students that I worked with said that I gave them the motivation that they needed to keep going. The students that I worked with had high academic scores that a lot of them had not experienced before. And it's because I was so motivated. At the end of the semester, I would whip out my phone and I would put my mother on speakerphone. And she would say in her Haitian accent to the kids, make sure you stay motivated, believe in yourself, don't let people put you down, keep going, study hard. And what was interesting was, even though in the schools that I was working at, a lot of the students, people would say are rowdy or behave badly, you could hear a pin drop. And I think it's because they understood that my mom meant every word that she said. And my mom is one of my greatest motivations. So my mother was raised in Haiti, and her family didn't have very much money. So sometimes she would be going to school and her shoes would be worn. Her father said he was unable to afford to purchase books for her for school. So my mother would handwrite the whole textbooks from her friends. But at age 19, my mother had an opportunity to come to America. Someone who was here in America, a Haitian woman who was a nurse, sponsored my mother. And when my mother got to America and she arrived at the woman's house, the woman said to my mom, you're my maid now. My mother was surprised. She didn't know that that was the woman's expectation. So my mother had to stay with the woman for 2 years until she was able to pay off the debt that the woman had paid for her to come to America. My mom told the woman, I want to learn English. And the lady said, okay, learn English. My mom said to the woman, I want to get my GED. She said that was the angriest she had ever seen the woman. And when you think about why, maybe it's because education is opportunity. Maybe it's because education is power. Maybe it's because education would allow my mother to leave that place and to do greater things. She ended up leaving after those 2 years. She went on to get her GED. She learned English. Then, years later, she got her associate's degree. She had me and my brother. Years later, age 40, she got her bachelor's degree. She's a registered nurse today. My mom is awesome. She's a registered nurse. And I always tell people she could afford all kinds of things. Now, she bought herself a car, my brother a car, me a car, my daddy a car. She all kinds of everybody cars. And she sent people to school all around the world, right? So my mother is my motivation. Everyone in this audience is pushing through something, is reaching for a new goal, is reaching for a certain vision, even if it's just happiness or peace. Everyone in the room, when I say go, you're going to share with one person next to you one of the things that is motivating you during this time in your life to do whatever, to be happy, to be at peace, to pursue a new goal. So you're going to tell one person who's next to you one thing that motivates you. Go. 30 seconds. So the next thing we're going to talk about is action. Everybody say action. Awesome. So I don't know who in here has rode the Bright Line. Raise your hand if you rode the Bright Line before. Okay, hands down. It is fabulous. It is like riding on a resort. It is great. So I rode the Bright Line a few weeks ago, and one of the last times that I rode it, I was sitting next to a woman who just turned 70 and who said that she was on the way to visit her old college roommate. I thought that was beautiful. And I love my roommates. They are my close friends. I'm the godmother of one of their children, basically. But when I think about college roommates, one of the things that comes to mind that I remember is chores. Now, let me tell you something about college roommates and chores. You don't remember, okay? So you put all these teenagers together. This is a lot of our first time away from our parents. And then we come together and we're like, oh, we got this with the chores. You do the chores on Friday. I do the dishes on Wednesday. You take out the trash this week. I'll take it out next week. And guess what happens usually? Nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. So I was the roommate who did everything that other people didn't do because somebody had to do it. And that person was me. And when it comes to women who are trailblazers and leaders and actionable in our history, I think that some of them probably thought to themselves, well, somebody has to do it, and that person is going to be me. Women like Ada Lovelace. She was the first ever computer programmer. People like Rosa Parks. Her act of courage sparked the civil rights movement. And then there's other women who are in this room, like our Hall of Fame inductees, including Gabriella Gamperl, who worked tirelessly to bring art to school children. People like Lynn Kadushin, whose passionate work allowed for an entrance for the elderly and for handicapped to be able to be put in at Century Village East. People like the wonderful Phyllis Mavrikas, who I had the opportunity to meet, who has volunteered in projects from autism to literacy. Individuals like Pam Militello, who served on the Deerfield Beach City Commission from 2005 to 2009 and was a founding member of the original Save Our Beach organization. People like Cheyenne Cox Stubbs, who volunteers at the Cathedral Church of God as a Sunday school teacher, choir director, and on the youth board. Clap it up for those inductees doing amazing work. Many of you in the audience have also taken action and been leaders in your families, in your jobs, and in organizations. So if something that I say stands out to you, is relevant to you, I want you to stand. If you are a woman in the room, if something that I say is relevant to you. If you have ever had a leadership role at work and are a woman, stand up if you can, if you're able. If you have been a mother to your own child or other children in your home or children outside of your home, stand up. If you are a woman who has had any leadership, oh my gosh, look at that, any leadership role in organizations or in church, stand up. If you're a woman who has ever fundraised for a cause, stand up. If you are a woman who has served as a mentor to anybody else, stand up. And if you're a woman who's ever given to a stranger in need, stand up. Look around you. All of you all have planted seeds in other people's lives. All of you all have helped someone else, and all of you all are leaving an infinite legacy because we will never know the results, the long-term results of all that we've invested into the lives of others. You all can have a seat. So the last thing I'm going to talk about today is perseverance. Everybody say perseverance. Perseverance. Woo, perseverance. So we have so many examples of women who have persevered, who have pushed past major challenges to do great things. One of those examples is Maya Angelou, actually. So she was abused as a child, and for 5 years, she didn't say a word. She was mute. But even still, she pushed past that challenge, and she became a woman who's a prolific writer, speaker, producer, and other things. In 2016, we have Nikki Hamblin and Abby D'Agostino, who both fell down during the 2016 Olympic Games 5,000-meter track race. Not only did they get up and keep going, even in their pain, but they actually encouraged each other along the way, right? Because that's what we do as women, we encourage one another. Raise your hand if you know a female doctor. Ooh, that's good. Raise your hand if you know, you can put your hand down. Raise your hand if you know a teacher who's impacted your life, female teacher. Hands down. Raise your hand if you know of a female professor. Raise your hand. Hands down. Raise your hand if you know a mom or a wife who inspires you. Raise your hand. Hands down. Raise your hand if you know somebody who you think is a strong woman. Okay. Hands down. Awesome. So in their honor, when I say go, so not yet, I want you to call out the names of 3, 4, 5 women who you feel are strong women. Just call them out. When I say go, go. So I want you all to know as I close that history is being made as we speak. With all of the women whose stories that I shared and that you all thought about and reflected on throughout this speech, we are all leaving infinite legacies. But we have to understand our motivation. We got to keep that motivation in our hearts and our minds. We have to continue to be committed to taking action regularly, to doing the things that we know that we're supposed to do as women, for whatever that means for you, right? And then we also have to make sure that we continue to persevere, that we make a commitment to keep pushing despite the challenges that we face. And as you move forward in your lives, blazing the path for people who come after you, I want you to remind yourself of those stories of the strong women who we talked about today. But I also want you to know that for generations to come, they're going to be looking back at you and the wonderful things that you've done and the infinite legacy that you leave today and beyond. Thank you.